All right, so you want to dive into this whole xeriscaping thing?
Let's do it.
I know you're all about making your outdoor space like totally gorgeous,
Of course.
but also being water-wise, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? You actually can have both.
You really can.
We're going to explore how to create a stunning, low-maintenance landscape
Yes.
that thrives even in dry conditions.
Like even in really dry conditions.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do.
It is.
It's fascinating how, people are really starting to realize that a beautiful garden
Right?
doesn't have to be a thirsty garden.
Yeah.
Xeriscaping and drought-tolerant gardening are becoming super popular.
Yeah, they are.
And it's really changing how we think about landscape design.
So, first things first, what exactly is xeriscaping?
Yeah.
Sounds kind of like a futuristic sci-fi term, doesn't it?
It does.
Like something out of Star Trek.
It's got a little ring to it.
Yeah.
But the concept is actually pretty simple.
Okay.
Xeriscaping comes from the Greek word charos, meaning dry. Okay.
So it's all about designing landscapes that use water efficiently.
So it's not just for folks who live in, like, the desert?
No, not at all.
Like, I bet even someone in a more temperate climate could benefit from this.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's becoming increasingly relevant in
Okay.
areas facing water shortages or rising water costs.
Right.
Even if you don't live in a particularly dry area,
Right.
just using water wisely just makes sense.
Totally. It's good for the environment. It's good for our wallets.
Exactly.
So how does this whole xeriscaping thing actually work in practice?
Well, think of it like a puzzle
Okay.
where each piece contributes to the overall goal
Okay.
of water conservation.
Right.
So your plant choices,
Mm-hmm.
your irrigation systems,
Right.
even the materials you use for like walkways and
Oh,
patios,
interesting.
it all plays a role.
Like those permeable pavers I've been hearing about, are those part of the picture too?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah, permeable pavers are a fantastic way.
To reduce runoff and allow water to seep back into the ground.
Okay.
So unlike traditional concrete,
Right.
they have these tiny little spaces that allow water to pass through.
So it's like giving the water a chance to soak in
Yes.
rather than just running off into the storm drain.
Exactly.
That's pretty clever.
And much better for recharging groundwater
Right.
and supporting healthy plant growth.
So if I'm starting to plan out like my own xeriscape,
Yeah.
what are some of the key principles I need to keep in mind?
Well, one of the most important concepts is hydrozoning.
Hydrozoning.
Yes.
That sounds a little intimidating.
Yeah, it's a big word,
Yeah.
but I'm ready.
It's actually pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Hydrozoning simply means grouping plants with similar water needs
Okay.
together. So you would have a zone for your plants that love a good soak,
Right.
another zone for those that prefer drier conditions,
Makes
and
sense.
so on.
Yeah. So it ensures that each plant is getting the right amount of water without wasting a drop.
So you wouldn't want to put like a water-loving fern next to a drought-tolerant succulent.
Exactly.
They'd be sending mixed signals.
They'd be very confused.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. By grouping plants with similar needs,
Okay,
you can make watering much more efficient.
right.
Like imagine a vibrant mix of lavender, sage, and yucca,
Okay.
all thriving together
Yeah.
because they need the same amount of hydration.
I love how you just painted that picture for us.
Oh, good.
It really helps me visualize how this all comes together.
Good.
Speaking of plants, what are some of the stars of the xeriscape world?
Well, you got to talk about succulents and cacti.
They're so cool.
Oh my gosh, they're amazing.
Yeah,
These incredible plants have evolved to survive in arid environments
right.
by storing water in their fleshy leaves and stems.
Yeah, they're like little camels.
They are. They're masters of water conservation.
I've always been fascinated by succulents. Like they come in so many different shapes and sizes and
They
colors.
do. They do.
Amazing.
It's incredible.
So what are some of your favorites that you think our listener might enjoy?
There are so many to choose from, but
I know, right?
a few that always stand out to me are agave,
Okay.
aloe, sedum, and echeveria.
Okay.
Agave with its dramatic, spiky leaves.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, it brings a real bold architectural element to the garden.
Uh-huh.
Aloe, of course,
Ah.
known for its soothing gel.
Yeah.
But it's also a stunning plant with like a sculptural quality.
Yeah.
And then you have sedum and echeveria, which come in an incredible array of colors and textures,
Oh,
from silvery rosettes to vibrant pinks and purples.
oh, wow.
They add so much personality to a landscape.
I can see why those are some of your favorites. They sound amazing.
They are.
And I bet they would make any garden look unique and interesting.
Yeah.
But let's be real, xeriscaping isn't just about plants. What about the non-living parts of the landscape?
Yes.
The rocks, the gravel, all that good stuff.
You're right.
Okay.
We call that hardscaping,
Okay.
and it's an integral part of xeriscape design.
Okay.
And it plays a big role in both water conservation and aesthetics.
Right.
So instead of traditional lawns,
Right.
we often use things like gravel, decomposed granite,
Mm-hmm.
or even those permeable pavers to create walkways, patios, and other areas.
Okay.
And these materials not only minimize water evaporation,
Uh-huh.
but they also add a really sleek, modern look.
I love the contrast of like those natural textures with the softness of the plants.
Yes, it's a nice balance.
It seems like xeriscaping really embraces a more minimalist, almost zen-like approach
Yeah, definitely.
to landscaping,
It does.
which I like.
Yeah. And speaking of creating a peaceful, inviting atmosphere,
Right.
you can incorporate features like rock gardens, dry creek beds, strategically placed boulders
All right.
to add visual interest, create a sense of tranquility.
And don't forget about those small fountains you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
That sound of like gently trickling water.
So soothing.
It really is.
Yeah.
It all comes back to creating that like multi-sensory experience, doesn't it?
It does.
Not just what you see,
Right.
but what you hear, what you smell,
Yes.
even what you feel under your feet.
Exactly. And that's what makes xeriscaping so exciting.
Right.
It's an invitation to engage with the landscape on a
Yeah.
deeper level
Uh-huh.
and create a space that truly reflects your personal style and values.
So we've covered like the basics of what xeriscaping is,
Yeah.
some key principles to keep in mind.
Right.
But I'm sure our listener is eager to hear more about the practical side of things.
I'm sure they are.
So how do we actually go about planning and creating a xeriscape?
Yeah, the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, the nitty-gritty.
That's where the fun begins.
It does.
Yeah, so get ready to explore the nuts and bolts of xeriscape design and learn how to transform your outdoor space into a stunning, low-maintenance oasis.
Love it. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so we've kind of set the stage.
Yeah,
We're understanding what xeriscaping is all about.
we got the big picture.
We do. But now let's get down to like the nitty-gritty.
Right.
Where do we even begin when it comes to actually planning and designing our own xeriscape?
Well, before you even pick up a shovel, the most important step is understanding your site. It's like, building a house. You wouldn't start without a blueprint, right?
Okay, so what kind of blueprint information do we need for our xeriscape?
Well, you need to consider things like soil type, sun exposure, and drainage patterns.
Okay.
For instance, if you have heavy clay soil,
Right.
you'll need to choose plants that can tolerate those conditions.
Okay.
Similarly, a south-facing slope is going to get a lot more sun than a north-facing one, so your plant choices will need to reflect that.
So it's all about working with nature,
Yeah,
not against it.
exactly.
Okay.
And once you have a good understanding of your site's characteristics,
Right.
you can start thinking about the layout and design
Okay.
of your xeriscape.
So let's say I've done my site analysis,
Yeah.
got my blueprint.
Okay.
What's next? Do I just start picking out like pretty succulents and cacti?
Not so fast.
Okay.
It's helpful to think about your xeriscape in terms of zones.
Okay.
You can have high-use areas like patios and walkways,
Uh-huh.
planting beds for your drought-tolerant beauties, maybe even a dedicated space for a rock garden or a dry creek bed.
Zones. Okay, so it's kind of like dividing your outdoor space into different like rooms.
Yes.
With specific purposes and like characteristics.
Exactly. And
Right.
within each zone, you can then focus on selecting plants that are well suited to the conditions of that
Yeah.
particular area.
Right.
For example, if you have a hot, sunny patio,
Right.
you'll want to choose plants that can handle the heat and reflected light. Things like that.
And that's where my agave and echeveria come in.
Yes.
I'm already picturing them like basking in the sun.
They'd love it there.
And for like a shadier spot,
Yeah.
maybe under a tree.
Yeah.
You could consider plants like ferns or hostas
Yes, those are...
that prefer less direct sunlight.
Exactly.
This is starting to feel like a giant, exciting puzzle.
It is.
We're just figuring out where each piece fits
Yes.
to create a beautiful and functional landscape.
Yeah. And just like a puzzle, the success of your xeriscape lies in the careful selection and arrangement of each element.
So we've talked about plants, we've talked about hardscaping.
Right.
But what about the actual process of putting it all together?
Okay.
Any tips for a first-time xeriscaper?
Well, when it comes to planting,
Uh,
one of the best pieces of advice I can give is to amend your soil with compost.
okay.
This is going to improve drainage and provide essential nutrients for your plants to thrive.
So compost, got it. So even though we're talking about drought-tolerant plants,
Yeah.
good soil's still key.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Healthy soil is the foundation
Right.
of any successful garden, xeriscape, or otherwise.
Right.
Helps retain moisture, promotes root development,
Okay.
supports beneficial microorganisms.
Compost it is. All right, so we've planted our xeriscape.
Yeah,
It's looking fantastic. But let's be real, maintenance is still a thing, right?
it is.
It's not like we can just set it and forget it.
You're right. It's not completely maintenance-free,
Right.
but it's definitely much lower maintenance than a traditional garden.
Okay.
One of the biggest time savers is you'll be watering much less frequently.
Okay. That's music to my ears.
Right.
Less time watering means more time enjoying my beautiful outdoor space.
Exactly.
So with just a few, simple maintenance tasks,
Yeah.
we can keep our xeriscape looking its best.
Yes.
Weeding, of course, is important, but I imagine because you're using less water,
Right.
weeds are less of a problem.
Less water, less happy weeds.
Exactly.
Mulching is another key practice in xeriscaping.
Yep.
It helps suppress weeds, retain moisture,
Right.
and even regulate soil temperature.
Mulch is like a superhero in the garden world.
It is.
It does so much.
It's a multitasker.
Less watering, less weeding.
Yeah.
What other, low maintenance perks can we look forward to?
Well, another great thing about xeriscapes is that they generally require less fertilization.
Okay.
Drought-tolerant plants are adapted to thrive in nutrient-poor soils,
Okay.
so they don't need as much of a boost. So I won't be running to the garden center every other week for fertilizer.
No.
Okay, good. That's a win.
And speaking of saving money,
Yes.
let's talk about one of the biggest benefits of xeriscaping.
Yeah.
Reduced water bills.
All right, now we're talking. Everyone loves saving money.
It's true.
Yeah.
By using less water, you'll not only be helping the environment,
Right.
you'll also be putting more money back in your pocket.
Right. It's good for everyone.
And those savings can really add up over time. Yeah,
Especially in areas where water costs are high.
It's true. I bet there are even some folks out there who have seen their water bills drop dramatically
Oh, yeah.
after converting to a xeriscape.
Absolutely. In fact, studies have shown that xeriscapes can reduce water consumption by 50% or more
Wow,
compared to traditional landscapes.
that's impressive. So not only are we creating a beautiful and sustainable landscape,
Yes.
but we're also saving money in the process. It's a win-win-win.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, beyond the practical benefits,
Right.
there's something deeply satisfying
Yeah.
about knowing that you're doing your part to conserve water
Right.
and create a more sustainable future.
It's like a sense of pride.
Yeah.
Knowing that your beautiful garden
Yes.
is also environmentally responsible.
Exactly. And that sense of purpose can be incredibly rewarding.
So we focused a lot on the how-to of xeriscaping,
Yeah.
but I think it's important to acknowledge that there can be some challenges along the way.
Of course.
It's not always as simple as it sounds.
You're right. Like any type of gardening, xeriscaping comes with its own set of challenges.
Okay.
And one of the most common ones is overcoming those preconceived notions about what a xeriscape should look like.
You mean the stereotype of a boring brown landscape
Yes.
with just a few prickly cacti?
Exactly.
People think it's just rocks and 3 cacti.
Right. People often think that xeriscaping means sacrificing beauty for functionality.
Right.
But as we've discussed,
No.
that's simply not true.
No, not at all.
Xeriscapes can be incredibly vibrant, colorful, and diverse.
Yes, they can.
It's all about choosing the right plants
Right.
and designing a space that reflects your personal style.
So how do we challenge those misconceptions?
Yeah.
How do we spread the word that xeriscaping can be both beautiful and sustainable?
I think education is key. Showing people examples of stunning xeriscapes,
Right.
sharing success stories, and highlighting the benefits of water conservation can go a long way in changing perceptions.
It's about showcasing the possibilities.
Yes.
I bet social media plays a big role in that, right?
Absolutely.
Sharing those drool-worthy photos of thriving xeriscapes can really open people's minds.
Visual inspiration is so powerful.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate the power of word of mouth.
Oh, for sure.
When people see their neighbors' beautiful water-wise gardens,
Yeah.
they're more likely to consider it for themselves.
It's like a ripple effect, spreading the xeriscaping love.
I love it.
But even with all the information and inspiration out there,
Right.
there can still be practical challenges,
Of course.
unexpected pests
Yes.
or weather events.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those happen.
Of course. even the most carefully planned xeriscape
Right.
can be affected by things like pests, diseases,
Right.
or extreme weather.
Yeah. Mother Nature does what she wants.
That's right. But the good news is that there are ways
Okay.
to mitigate those challenges.
Okay, so let's talk solutions.
All right.
What can we do to protect our xeriscapes from those pesky critters and unpredictable weather?
Well, when it comes to pests,
Okay.
the key is to create a healthy ecosystem that encourages beneficial insects and discourages harmful ones.
Right.
You can do this by choosing a diverse range of plants,
Okay.
avoiding pesticides, and providing habitat
Oh.
for beneficial insects like ladybugs and lacewings.
So again, it's all about working with nature,
Yes,
not against it.
exactly.
I love that approach.
And if you do have a pest problem,
Okay.
there are many organic and eco-friendly pest control methods that you can try before resorting to harsh chemicals.
Right. So like less is more.
Exactly. And what about weather?
Yeah. So like those unexpected heat waves or droughts
Right.
can really put a strain on plants, even drought tolerant ones.
You're right. During extreme weather conditions, it's important to provide supplemental watering,
Okay.
especially for newly planted or more sensitive species.
So even though xeriscaping is all about reducing water usage,
Right.
there are times when we need to give our plants a little extra TLC.
You got it.
Okay. It's about being adaptable, I guess,
Yes.
and responsive to their needs.
Exactly.
It's a give and take.
It is. And that brings us to another important aspect of xeriscaping: maintenance.
Right.
While it's definitely lower maintenance than traditional gardening,
Right.
it's not completely maintenance-free.
Okay, so it's not like we could just plant it and forget it.
Right.
These are still living, breathing plants
Yes, they are.
that need our care and attention.
That's a great point. And the type and amount of maintenance will vary depending on the size and complexity of your xeriscape,
Right.
the types of plants you've chosen,
Got
and
it.
your local climate.
So let's break down some of those key maintenance tasks that our listeners should be aware of.
Okay.
What are the must-dos
Yeah.
to keep our xeriscapes looking their best?
Well, one of the most important things is weeding. Even though xeriscapes tend to have less weed growth
Okay.
than traditional gardens,
Right.
those pesky invaders can still pop up.
Okay.
And because you're using less water,
Yeah.
weeds can compete
Right.
more easily with your desired plants.
So pulling those weeds early and often is key.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And mulching can help suppress weed growth and retain moisture,
Right.
reducing the amount of watering you need to do.
Right.
And speaking of watering,
Yeah.
it's important to water deeply but infrequently.
Okay.
This encourages deep root development, making your plants more resilient to drought.
Okay. So deep watering, but not too often.
You got it.
Got it.
What about pruning?
Yeah. So do xeriscape plants need as much trimming
Yeah.
as like traditional garden plants?
Because xeriscape plants are often chosen for their natural shapes and textures,
Right.
they generally require less pruning than traditional garden plants.
Mm-hmm.
But some plants,
All right.
especially succulents and cacti,
Might need occasional trimming to maintain their shape,
Okay.
prevent them from becoming too leggy or overgrown.
Okay, so it's like giving them a little haircut,
Exactly.
keeping them looking their best.
And remember, pruning can also encourage new growth and flowering.
Oh, nice.
So it's a win-win.
So what about fertilizing? Do xeriscape plants need as much fertilizer as traditional garden plants?
Because xeriscape plants are adapted to thrive in nutrient-poor soils, they generally require less fertilizer than traditional garden plants.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean they don't need any at all, especially during their active growing season.
Okay.
A slow-release fertilizer, formulated for drought-tolerant plants,
Right.
can provide the nutrients they need without overwhelming them.
So it's still important to give them a little boost now and then.
Yes, but always err on the side of caution.
Okay.
Over-fertilizing can actually be harmful
Okay.
to drought-tolerant plants.
Right.
It's best to follow the instructions on the fertilizer label.
And observe your plants for any signs of nutrient deficiency.
So it's all about finding that balance
Yes.
and paying attention to our plants' needs.
Speaking of paying attention, regular monitoring is crucial.
Okay.
Even though xeriscapes are low maintenance,
Right.
it's important to check your plants
Okay.
for any signs of stress, pests, or diseases.
Makes sense.
Early detection is key
I
to
see.
preventing bigger problems down the road.
It's like being a doctor for your plants.
It is.
Yeah, you have to do regular checkups
Exact.
to make sure they're healthy and thriving.
And don't forget about those seasonal adjustments.
Right.
During hotter months,
Yeah.
you might need to provide some supplemental watering,
Okay.
especially for newly planted or more sensitive species.
Right.
And in cooler months, you can reduce watering
Okay.
or even stop it altogether, depending on your local climate.
So it's all about being like flexible and responsive to the changing seasons and our plants' needs.
Exactly.
So xeriscaping isn't a one-size-fits-all approach.
No.
It's about adapting our practices to our specific location,
Yes.
plants, and climate.
You've hit the nail on the head. And that's what makes it so fascinating and rewarding. It's an ongoing learning process, and there's always something new to discover.
Beyond like the practical aspects of maintenance,
Right.
I think there's also a deeper level of connection
Oh, for sure.
that develops when you care for a xeriscape.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because you're working with nature, not against it.
Yeah.
You become more attuned to its rhythms and cycles.
Right.
You notice the subtle changes in the plants, the way they respond to the sun and rain,
Yeah.
the ebb and flow of the seasons. It's very grounding and enriching.
I love that perspective. It's about more than just keeping your plants alive. It's about cultivating a deeper relationship
Yes.
with the natural world.
Exactly. And that connection can bring so much joy, peace,
Yeah.
and even a sense of purpose.
It's like a reminder that we're part of something
Yeah.
bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, we're interconnected with all living things.
And that's a powerful realization,
Yeah.
especially in like today's world,
Right.
where we're often like so disconnected from nature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Right.
maintaining a xeriscape is more than just a chore. It's an opportunity to engage with nature, learn, grow,
Yeah.
and create a space that brings beauty, resilience, and a sense of connection to your life.
Now, I know our listeners probably feeling like inspired and eager to get started.
I hope so.
So let's shift our focus to some practical tips and resources that can help them embark on their own xeriscaping adventure.
Great idea. Let's empower our listeners to turn those xeriscape dreams into reality.
So we've covered like the nuts and bolts of xeriscaping, from planning and design to maintenance.
We have.
But for me, xeriscaping kind of goes beyond just the like how-to.
Yeah, I agree.
It's about a deeper connection to nature, would you say?
Absolutely. It's about shifting our mindset and realizing that even in dry conditions,
Right.
we can create these thriving, beautiful landscapes
Right.
that benefit both ourselves and the environment.
Yeah, it's like a mini rebellion against the idea that a lush garden
Right.
has to be a water guzzler.
Exactly.
We're proving that you can have it all.
You can.
Beauty, sustainability,
Yeah.
and a lower water bill.
And a lower water bill. And in doing so, we're not just creating a garden, we're
Right.
creating a habitat.
Oh, that's a good point.
Xeriscapes attract pollinators like bees and butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
They provide shelter for birds,
Right.
and they contribute to a healthier ecosystem overall.
It's like we're weaving ourselves back into the natural tapestry
Yes.
rather than trying to like control and dominate it.
I love that.
And speaking of connection,
Yeah.
I've noticed that xeriscaping seems to foster a sense of community too.
That's such a great observation. Like,
Okay.
think about it.
Yeah.
When you start xeriscaping, you inevitably start talking to your neighbors about it,
Right.
sharing tips and plant recommendations. You might even end up swapping cuttings or seeds.
It's like this secret club,
Yeah.
but one that everyone's invited to join.
Exactly.
And it's not just about like sharing gardening knowledge.
Yeah,
It's about a shared commitment to sustainability and water conservation.
it is. And that shared purpose can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It brings people together, strengthens community bonds,
Right.
and creates this ripple effect of positive change.
It is inspiring to think that something as simple as changing the way we garden
Right.
can have such a profound impact
Yeah.
on our communities and the
I
environment.
know, it's pretty amazing.
And, you know, there's
Yeah.
another aspect of xeriscaping that I find incredibly rewarding.
Okay.
It's that, like, feeling of empowerment that comes with creating something beautiful and sustainable
Yes,
with your own two hands.
absolutely. That sense of pride in knowing that you're not just a consumer,
Right.
you're a creator. You're actively shaping your environment
Yeah.
and making a positive impact on the world.
And that feeling can be incredibly transformative, especially for people who maybe, like, didn't consider themselves gardeners before.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about breaking down those barriers
Yeah.
and showing people that, like, anyone can create a thriving, beautiful garden, no matter their experience or skill level.
Absolutely. And, you know, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listener with one final thought.
Okay.
Xeriscaping is more than just a set of gardening techniques.
Right.
It's a philosophy.
I like that, a philosophy. How would you describe that xeriscaping philosophy?
Well, it's about mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
It's about working with nature.
Right.
And it's about making choices that benefit both ourselves and the planet.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that our actions have consequences.
Right.
And that even small changes can make a big difference.
It's a powerful message,
Yeah.
and one that feels especially relevant today. We're facing so many environmental challenges,
Right.
and it can feel kind of overwhelming.
It can.
But xeriscaping offers a tangible, hopeful solution.
It does.
It shows that we can create beauty and abundance while still being mindful of our resources.
And it reminds us that we're all connected to each other,
Yeah.
to the natural world,
Right.
to the future of our planet.
So as you kind of embark on your own xeriscaping journey,
Yeah,
remember that you're not just creating a garden.
right.
You're creating a legacy.
A legacy.
You're joining a movement
Yes.
of people who are committed to creating a more sustainable and beautiful world.
That's awesome.
And that's something to be incredibly proud of. All right, so we've given you a ton of information to digest.
I know we have.
But the real magic happens when you start putting it into practice.
It does.
Imagine, walking through your xeriscape oasis,
Yeah.
surrounded by the beauty and resilience of drought-tolerant plants, the gentle buzz of pollinators,
It's so peaceful.
and the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're making a difference.
Yeah.
What unique features would you incorporate
Right.
to make it truly your own? That's something for you to explore. Happy xeriscaping.